The church smelled like old hymns and quiet judgment. Cold October wind swept through the open doors, carrying whispers that wrapped around Eleanor Wade like chains. She stood at the altar in a borrowed wedding dress, 2 sizes too big, yellow lace hanging loose on her thin arms. Her hands trembled around wilted prairie roses as she counted the floorboards to the exit. 12 steps, only 12. For one desperate moment, she wondered if she could run, but the pews were packed with every soul in Copper Ridge. Some came with pity. Most came with judgment. All watched her like a show they had paid to see. Across from her stood Clayton Hartwell, 34, tall and broad-shouldered, the richest rancher in 3 counties. He held his hat in weathered hands, staring straight ahead with a face carved from stone. She had expected cruelty when she first looked at him that morning. Instead, she saw only stillness, like a man hiding storms beneath calm water. The minister droned on with words barely heard. Her father was not in the church. He could not bear to watch what his desperation had forced upon his only daughter. The bank had threatened foreclosure. A stranger named Garrett had offered to pay the debt in full if Eleanor married Clayton Hartwell. Her father had cried when he told her, but he had agreed anyway. No one asked Eleanor what she wanted. When the minister finally spoke her name, her breath caught. "Do you, Eleanor May Wade, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" The whole room leaned forward, hungry for her answer. "I do," she whispered, her voice cracking like thin ice breaking under weight. The minister turned to Clayton, and everyone expected the usual words, but Clayton spoke differently. "I will. Not I do, but I will." A murmur rolled through the church like distant thunder. Eleanor felt her stomach twist. Clayton kept his eyes forward, refusing to look at her even once since she had walked that endless aisle. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you man and wife." The words fell heavy as the slam of a jail door. Clayton finally turned and offered his arm. She stared at it like it might burn her. This man was now her husband, a stranger who owned her future with a single signature. Her hand hovered in the air before she finally placed it on his sleeve. His grip was careful, not claiming, just steady. They walked down the aisle through a tunnel of staring eyes. Outside, the wind bit cold. Clayton helped her into the wagon with movements so quiet they felt like apologies. She flinched when his hand brushed her elbow. He noticed and stepped back at once. "Name's Clayton," he said softly as he gathered the reins. "Reckon you know that already." She nodded without speaking. "You all right, Miss Wade?" "It's Mrs. Hartwell now," she whispered, the name tasting bitter. Clayton did not answer right away. He clicked to the horses and started driving. "Only if you want it to be," he said at last. The town watched them leave as the wagon rolled toward the foothills where shadows grew long. At the end of the valley, the Hartwell ranch rose against the fading light. A big timber house with stone foundations, wide porches, and windows catching the last gold of day. Smoke curled from the chimney, warm and promising, but Eleanor felt no warmth. Clayton helped her down with gentle hands, but she stepped away at once. "I'll show you inside," he said carefully. The front room held a stone fireplace, a handmade rug, and polished furniture. The house smelled of wood, smoke, and coffee. "Kitchen's through there," Clayton said. "Pantry's full. You need anything, Silas goes to town Wednesdays." Upstairs, he led her to a room with a 4-poster bed and a quilt sewn in blue and cream. A washstand waited beside a window looking toward distant mountains. On the inside of the door was a lock, solid brass, gleaming. "Use it if you need to," Clayton said. "I won't knock unless you ask me to. You understand?" "Yes," she managed. "I'll leave you to settle." He walked out and closed the door with a soft click. She locked it at once, then sat on the bed and stared at her shaking hands. Downstairs, Clayton ate alone at a table set with 2 plates. He wrapped warm biscuits in cloth and placed them outside her door without knocking. Morning came gray. Eleanor found the biscuits and ate them alone. They were honest food, warm enough to soften the edge of her fear. Downstairs she heard voices. "Town's talking, boss." Silas said carefully. Town can keep talking, Clayton answered firm and cold. They say you got yourself a pretty bargain. She's not a bargain, Clayton said, and something in his voice made Eleanor press her palm against the door. She's my wife. That evening, fresh bread waited in the kitchen, golden crust still crackling. 3 days passed like that. They moved around each other like ghosts, careful never to touch, never to speak more than needed. He never pushed, never asked, never claimed any right. On the 4th morning, something shifted. She walked downstairs and found Clayton at the kitchen table, ledger open, coffee steaming. He looked up, surprised. "Morning," he said. For the first time since the wedding, she sat across from him. Eleanor wrapped her hands around the warm cup he pushed toward her. The air between them felt fragile. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why did you agree to marry me?" Clayton set down his pen, and the house seemed to hold its breath. "A man named Garrett came to me 6 weeks ago," he said slowly. "He talked about a marriage contract. Said it would be good for both sides. Said you were 19, from a decent family that had fallen on hard times." Eleanor stared at the table. "You said yes?" she asked. "I said I would think on it," Clayton answered. "I am alone here. This house is too big for one man. I thought maybe it was time to have someone else in it. Someone to share the quiet." She lifted her eyes. "You did not know I had no choice," her voice broke. Clayton's jaw tightened. "No," he said quietly. "I did not know that." The words fell heavy between them. She told him everything then. The drought that ruined their crops 3 years in a row. The bank that circled like a vulture. Her father's debt pressing the breath from their home. Garrett appearing like a devil in a clean coat, offering escape at a price she never agreed to pay. Her father crying as he spoke, but still agreeing. Clayton listened without interrupting, his face still, his hands folded. When she finished, he let out a slow breath. "I am sorry," he said. "I thought it was mutual. Practical. When I saw your face at the altar, I understood. Too late, but I understood." Eleanor studied him, searching for cruelty, for anger. She found neither. "So you married me anyway," she said. "I did," he replied. "And I meant what I said. I will. I will try every day to make this right. You are my wife, but that does not mean I own you." Something inside her loosened, just a little. Before she could speak, a knock sounded at the door. A boy stood outside and handed Clayton an envelope. "From the church," he said. Clayton read it, his jaw hardening. He tossed it straight into the fire. "What was that?" Eleanor asked. "An invitation," he said. "They want to throw a welcome reception for you on Sunday." "Do we have to go?" she asked. "We are not going," Clayton said without hesitation. That night, Eleanor left her bedroom door cracked open for the first time. Not wide, just enough for lamplight to spill into the hall. Clayton paused when he saw it, but said nothing. The next morning, fresh bread waited on the table, warm and whole. 2 weeks passed like that. They found a rhythm without planning to. Clayton rose before dawn. Eleanor learned the sound of his boots. She learned to bake bread without burning it. She patched his favorite shirt where the seam had split. They spoke a little more each day, careful, honest words. One clear morning, Clayton asked if she wanted to learn to ride. Fear tightened her ribs, but she nodded. He brought out a chestnut mare with soft eyes named Clementine. He showed her how to hold the reins, how to sit, how to guide without forcing. His hands brushed hers only when needed, when the mare shifted beneath her, steady and warm. Eleanor laughed. It surprised them both. Clayton smiled, and the smile changed his whole face. On Wednesday, they rode into town for supplies. Copper Ridge watched from windows and doorways. Women whispered behind gloves. Men smirked. Clayton walked beside her like a wall. Inside the general store, Mrs. Hawkins weighed flour without meeting Eleanor's eyes. Outside, a drunk cowboy leaned against a post, grinning. "Well now," he said. "How's married life, Mrs. Hartwell? That old rancher treat you gentle?" Shame burned her chest. Before she could speak, Clayton stepped forward. his voice low and calm. "You got something to say, you say it to me." The grin faded. "Didn't mean nothing," the man muttered. "Then say nothing," Clayton replied. Back at the wagon, Eleanor stared at her hands. "I am sorry," she whispered. "For what?" Clayton asked. "For the gossip. For how they look at you now." "They can look all they want," he said. "What matters is, you are here. You are safe." She studied him, the set of his jaw, the way he held the reins steady. "Thank you," she said. That evening she found him in the yard planting bulbs. "What are those?" he asked. "Tulips," she said. "For spring. You think you will still be here come spring?" he asked. She looked up. "Yes, I think I will." Something quiet passed between them in the golden light. November came sharp and cold. One night, Eleanor woke and saw a lamp glowing on the porch. Clayton stood outside, holding a photograph. The next night, she went down and sat beside him. He showed it to her. A woman with kind eyes holding a baby. "Mary," he said, "my wife, and our son Jacob. Fever took them 5 years ago." "I am sorry," Eleanor whispered. "I am too," he said, "every day." He looked at her then. "Loving them does not mean I stop living. It does not mean I cannot care for someone else." The cold drove them inside. They sat near the fire, quiet and close. A week later, another invitation came, one Clayton could not burn. The church social. Every woman was expected to attend. Eleanor agreed, tired of hiding. Sunday morning came bright and cold. Clayton waited by the door. "You do not have to do this," he said. "I know," she answered, "but I need to." The church parlor smelled of tea and false smiles. Women gathered in tight circles. Every voice dropped when Eleanor entered. Mrs. Dalton stepped forward, her smile sharp. "So tell us," she said, "how does it feel to be bought like livestock?" Another woman laughed. "At least Hartwell paid well. Your father got a good price." Something broke inside Eleanor, clean and clear. She stood, her chair scraping loud. "My father was desperate," she said. "Your husbands would have let us starve and called it business. Do not judge me for surviving." Silence fell. Eleanor walked out, head high, tears burning, but not falling. She walked all the way home under the cold sky. Clayton found her on the porch an hour later. She told him everything. He listened, his face still and focused. "They will not speak to you like that again," he said. "You cannot control them," she replied. "No," he said, stepping closer. "But I can make sure they hear me louder. Trust me." She met his eyes. "Yes," she said, "I trust you." That night, sleep would not come. Eleanor sat at the small table in her room with a packed bag at her feet and a folded letter beside the lamp. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that pressed on her chest. She picked up the letter again and read the words she had written through shaking hands. She was leaving, not because of him, but because she did not want to be the reason the town turned against him. Kindness, she had learned, could cut deeper than cruelty. Dawn came pale and cold. She walked into the kitchen with the bag in her hand. Clayton stood by the table, the letter open in his hands. He looked older in the morning light, tired in a way that reached deeper than sleep. "You are free to go," he said quietly. "You always were." Her eyes filled, and the bag slipped from her fingers. "Then why does it feel so hard to leave?" she asked. Clayton took a step toward her, then stopped, giving her space. "Why did you really marry me?" she asked. Not the excuse, the truth. He took a long breath. "Because when I saw you at that altar, scared and alone, I thought maybe we could both stop being lonely. Maybe we could build something new from broken pieces. I knew it was not fair. I only hoped that one day you might choose to stay." Eleanor felt the choice settle in her chest, heavy and calm all at once. She bent, picked up the bag, carried it back to her room, and unpacked every last thing. When she returned, she placed the crumpled letter in his hands. "I choose you," she said. "I choose us." Relief crossed his face, quiet and real. "Then let me do something for us," he said. "You will see on Sunday," she nodded. "I trust you." The week passed quickly. Clayton rode into town twice, returned with papers, met with men whose names Eleanor did not know. She asked no questions. Sunday morning arrived bright and sharp. They sat together in the front pew, every eye in Copper Ridge fixed on them. Before the minister could begin, Clayton stood. "With your permission, Reverend, I would like to speak." The church went silent. "Most of you know how Eleanor came to me," he said. "Some of you think I bought her. You are wrong." He held up a paper. "What I paid was her father's debt. $800 to save their farm. What I gave Eleanor was a choice. Yesterday I signed over 200 acres of my ranch to her. Water rights, grazing rights, timber rights. The land is hers alone." Gasps filled the room. "She can leave any time she wants," Clayton continued. "She can sell it, work it, or burn the deed. She is not my property. She is my partner. I expect her to be treated with respect." He sat and took her hand in front of everyone. Eleanor stood, her knees trembling, her voice steady. "I stay because I want to," she said. "I was given dignity when I had none. I choose this man. Every day I choose him." Silence held. Then an old woman rose slowly. "I was wrong," she said. "About both of you." Others nodded. Some looked ashamed. It did not matter anymore. Outside, sunlight spilled over the steps. "You gave me land," Eleanor whispered. "I gave you freedom," Clayton replied. She kissed his cheek, and they walked home together. Spring came early. Tulips bloomed bright against the thawing earth. Eleanor planted apple trees that would take years to bear fruit. Clayton watched from the fence. "Those will take time," he said. She smiled. "Good. I am not going anywhere." They worked side by side, the fence still standing as a reminder that staying had been her choice. As evening fell, the porch light glowed warm. The door stood open. They stepped inside together, and in the house where fear once lived, love finally found a home.